I love Banjo Kazooie, and I especially love the music. It is so fun and full of whimsy, I can't get enough of it. Composed primarily by Grant Kirkhope and Jamie Hughes, the soundtracks for these games are phenomenal. That got me thinking, which song is my favorite one? Well, I know which one is my favorite, but I more so wondered how I would rank all of the world themes against one another. And when I say world themes, I mean all of the world themes. This means I will be including the songs from Banjo Kazooie, Banjo Tooie, Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, and Banjo Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. Yeah, betcha forgot about that one. One thing to note, every single one of these songs has several different variations based on where you are in each level. I will not be ranking every single variation, though some variations I will be ranking because they're different enough in my opinion to warrant it. Another key piece of info is that I actually do like every single one of these songs, at least somewhat. It's more of a list of least favorite to most favorite for me. Also, if you like the Banjo Kazooie soundtracks, which I assume you do considering you clicked on this video, then please check out this soundtrack that I made emulating the banjo style for an entire soundtrack. I think it's some of my best work. With all that out of the way, there are 40 total songs to go through, so let's get started. Grunty's Revenge is the only one of the 4 main Banjo games that was primarily composed by Jamie Hughes. This does not mean the music is bad, however. This one, though, is not very engaging. One thing to note is that because Grunty's Revenge was on the Game Boy Advance, the music is a lot more bare bones compared to the other games. I try not to let that affect my opinion too drastically, but here it only magnifies my issues with the song. It is too slow, it is empty, and it feels more repetitive than other songs in the franchise. It doesn't fit a Banjo Kazooie game in terms of the energy I want from the music. It definitely feels like an evil swamp, which fits the stage very well. My favorite part is actually when the strings are alone near the end of the song. It's creepy and nice to listen to. But unfortunately, the rest of the song doesn't engage me much, and as such, it lands at the bottom of the ranking. Nuts and Bolts is the only game of the 4 that I have not fully completed. I've tried several times, but it just wasn't a game for me, and that's okay. The music in Nuts and Bolts is all orchestral, which makes it stand out compared to the other games in terms of feel. My main issues arise from the songs in Nuts and Bolts feeling a lot more generic. They feel like they lack their own identity because of the soundtrack's insistence on referencing older songs from the first 2 games. With Logbox 720, it has a major part of the song be a reworking of Gruntilda's Lair. The song is pretty low energy, which is again not usually what I want out of a Banjo Kazooie soundtrack. It does have a very space-like energy, which I think fits the stage decently enough, and the song is pretty and well made of course, but it's just not my cup of tea. What if we took one of the weakest songs from Banjo Tooie and made it less interesting? This song is a combination of Pterodactyland and Grunty Industries music from Banjo Tooie, but with all the limitations of the GBA. The best part of this song is the percussion. It's varied and it fits the theme very well, but the melody is just a weaker version of Pterodactyland and Grunty Industries. Overall, it's just a very forgettable song despite being made from very memorable songs. The counterpart to Grunty Industries and Grunty's Revenge is Freezing Furnace. This world is the first instance of a single world having 2 or more songs attached to it. Freezing Furnace and Grunty Industries from Grunty's Revenge are technically the same world, but the songs are completely unique, so I'm ranking them separately. Not that separately though, because Freezing Furnace doesn't do much for me musically. A very generic ice level tune with constant sleigh bells that take all of the percussion space. I do like when the clarinet comes in after the intro for a fun, bouncy beat that the brass takes over after a bit. That's my favorite part of the song. That type of rhythm is used in a majority of the Banjo soundtracks, so that makes it mesh nicer with the whole OST. Still, it's rather generic, so it ranks lower than most others. The first song I'm ranking from the original N64 games, and it's Pterodactyland. I'd like to say that my bias towards the worlds themselves played little to no part in the music ranking, but Pterodactyland is my least favorite world from the first 2 games. I think the color palette is kind of boring, navigation is the most confusing in the entire game, and I do think the music is the weakest in the game as well. The instruments all fit the vibe well. Heavy use of low brass gives the song a heavy feel like the dinosaurs you encounter, but the song is just too repetitive for my tastes. It repeats the same melody line for so much of the song, and the parts that aren't the melody line are still too similar to the rest of the song for it to feel unique. The dinosaur noises are a nice touch, and add a lot to the atmosphere though. They might be my favorite part of the song. This Nuts and Bolts song has, in my opinion, the most fitting use of past songs to fit its vibe. The whole stage is a sports arena, and the songs it uses from past games are the Hailfire Peaks theme and the Kickball Stadium theme, both from Tooie. This is a perfect fit to me because Hailfire Peaks is where the Kickball Stadium is, which is the most overt sports theming from a past game, so its inclusion here is warranted. What isn't warranted is the cheesy sports stadium synth that you'd hear in baseball games, even including the signature do-do-do-do-do-do several times. It doesn't sound good because it clashes hard with the orchestral feel of the rest of the song. And even though I respect the references used in the song, it still causes the issue of making the song lose its individuality a little bit. So while the song fits the stage theming very well, it just isn't an amazing song to listen to. Yes, this one counts. It is technically a world that you unlock and play in Banjo Tooie. I, and I assume most others, would probably forget about this song because you'd likely only hear it for a minute or 2 at most. The song itself is pretty generic. It has motifs from the ILO Hags and Grunty's theme, which is fitting for the end of the game. The wind sounds also fit nicely here, since you are very high up in the world. The song, however, is still quite forgettable because of how little you hear it, which means it never makes a big impression on the player. One thing I find very interesting and cool about the song is that it feels like the time signature is always changing. As far as I can tell, it's just in 4/4, but the way the melody is played makes it feel like it's switching between several different time signatures. That aspect of the song makes it sound more intimidating, which I think is fitting for the end of the game. The final game to make its appearance on the list proper is the original Banjo Kazooie. There is nothing outright wrong with Mumbo's Mountain. It is peppy, lighthearted, fun, and a perfect song for an intro world. I think this one just comes down to not being a song I personally find outstanding. It is a little too cheery for me, if that makes sense. I do like the backbeats a lot on this track. They set a great precedence for the rest of the soundtrack. Showdown Town is a little weird to me. I understand that it's a hub world unlike any of the previous games, hence the more laid-back nature of the music, but it just gives me a strange feeling. That feeling, I figured out, was that it reminds me of music that would be played over a loudspeaker in an amusement park. I don't know exactly why, but this song gives that feeling like no other. In fact, most of the songs from Nuts and Bolts soundtrack give me the same vibe, but it's most pronounced here. There are, of course, soundtrack callbacks here, with a clear homage to Jinjo Village, which fits very well and is my favorite part of the song. I would say that from this point on, my feelings towards each of the songs leans more heavily towards liking them, and even then, the songs before this aren't bad. It just goes to show how excellent the music from these games is. Hailfire Peaks has a main theme that is shared between the two sides, but I felt it was fitting to split them up. I placed the ice side lower than the lava side because I like the brass in the lava side more compared to the xylophone in the ice side, which is really strange for me because mallet instruments are my absolute favorite and a major reason why I love the soundtracks of these games so much. The muted guitar for the bass notes is very nice and matches the lower energy of the ice side quite well. The spiccato strings also enhance the atmosphere quite a bit too. It's a great song, but not as good as its counterpart, in my opinion. The first main world of Nuts and Bolts is a good introduction to the style of music that the game goes for, more laid back and meandering with references to past songs such as Treasure Trove Cove and interestingly I think the file select music from the N64 titles. The percussion in this song is particularly nice with the kabasa and bongos. The mallet rolls are also very nice since they have some timing variation for extra humanization. It's a simple song, but it's also a good song. This song might achieve the theming of its world better than any other. Super wacky and full of almost dissonant notes, symbolizing the randomness of the stage with random set pieces everywhere. This does cause an issue where sometimes the song isn't the most enjoyable thing to listen to. Even so, it is still a very fun time. My favorite parts are all the slide notes used on flutes and especially trombone. Adds to the wackiness. Atlantis is the second main song from Jolly Roger's Lagoon, one of the few stages in the franchise to have a fully new song for a different area in a single world. The underwater vibes are excellent, the rising and falling of the instruments acting like waves. I tend to prefer the livelier songs over the slower ones, but this one is very pretty and stands out because of it. Also, I can't remember if this is true, but I seem to recall hearing that this was Grant Kirkhope's favorite song to compose in Banjo Tooie. Let me know if I'm wrong, since I don't know where I got that information. The first world in Grunty's Revenge. I didn't include Spiral Mountain from Grunty's Revenge, since it's simply a GBA port of the original, so it's the first original song from the game that I'm looking at. It is fun and catchy, fits the farm theme perfectly, and I especially like the woodwinds backing the banjo part. I think that Jamie Hughes did a very good job tapping into Grant Kirkhope's style for Grunty's Revenge soundtrack, and this is a clear example of that. This song is really cool. It has the mumbo vocalizations for lots of charm, and the mallet rolls feel really tribal to fit the theme. It also has a darker aura, which fits Banjo Tooie excellently for the first world. And the flute solo at the start of the song is just so good. A great song all around. This is the spooky world of Nuts and Bolts, and as such, it uses spooky music. It borrows from Mad Monster Mansion, which usually would make me think it lacks its own identity, as I felt with past Nuts and Bolts songs, but I think this one uses it more tastefully. It also maintains its own identity with the brilliant addition of the little gremlin laughs, and especially the gremlin singing. The part where the voices sing la 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 with the song and Mad Monster Mansion can be heard in the background makes this song a treat to listen to. It reminds me a lot of the Nightmare Before Christmas music, one of the best that Nuts and Bolts has to offer. Bottles is dead, insects are taking an interest in his corpse, and everyone is feeling sad. This song captures the feelings of our characters perfectly. A sad rendition of the Spiral Mountain theme we all know and love is a great way to introduce players to how Banjo Tooie is going to sound going forwards. The song sounds great. It feels emptier than the original, which is just how it should be. The theremin acts as a really nice backing instrument too, as it plays the chords in some parts. A great starting song for a great game. Yes, I do like the lava side this much more than the ice side, and there are a few reasons for that. As I mentioned before, I think the brass instruments fit the song excellently. I also think that first impressions matter a lot. When you first enter Hailfire Peaks, it's on the lava side, so this is what most players will hear first. As such, it leaves a stronger impression than the ice side. The bubble noises are also a nice atmospheric sound for the lava side, and as a whole, the song is a lot bouncier on the lava side, which I prefer to the ice side instruments. The the real hub world of Banjo Tooie as a counterpart to Grunty's Lair. The Ilo Hag's music is great. It's sinister and disheartening, but like in a fun way, you know? The echoey bass drum elevates the tension you feel as the song builds towards the main part when multiple instruments start playing and echoing off each other about 1 minute and 20 seconds into the song. This song also, like Grunty's Lair, changes a lot based on what world you're near, and all of the variations sound really good. I don't mind the backtracking present in Banjo Tooie, and this song is one of the reasons why, since I like to hear it as I go from world to world. I would wager that if I asked any random person who played Banjo Kazooie what their least favorite world was, I would get either Rusty Bucket Bay or Clanker's Cavern. If I just asked for least favorite music, I think I would primarily get Clanker's Cavern. I cannot get behind this sentiment because this song is great. It reminds me a lot of the scene in Robots when it pans to the underground workshop, which can only be a compliment in my book. It's a little grungy and yucky, and that's a good thing. It fits the stage super well while still sounding fantastic. Does anyone else find it strange that this song always starts with like the sparkle sound? Like, I thought it did that because that's the sound you make when entering any world in Banjo Kazooie, but only Gobi's Valley has it on the actual song. Anyways, this song I think represents a perfect midpoint to all the songs. It's a really good song, fun and upbeat with clear desert influence. It has little to no low points, but it doesn't have the highest of high points seen in later songs. As such, it sticks out to me as just a great song that acts as the benchmark for whether a song is excellent or just great. Click Clock Wood gets not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 entire slots on this list because I feel the differences between the 4 seasons are major enough for them to place separately. Summer goes from being in 4/4 time to a waltz in 3/4 time. It is more relaxed than the others and even includes a B choir. Even though it's technically my least favorite of the 4 seasons songs, it's still the Click Clock Wood theme, so it can only be so bad. Back to back, eh? The autumn theme shares a lot more in common with spring than summer does. This isn't the greatest thing though, because that means I'm comparing it more to the spring theme, and autumn just doesn't hold up comparatively. The reliance on oboe and bassoon is really nice, which gives it identity, along with all the frog noises. The ending also cuts almost every instrument besides the clarinet and percussion, which gives the autumn theme one of the coolest outros between the 4 seasons. I think that this song has one of the most iconic intros of any song in Banjo Kazooie. The bat noises and the wolf howls are super spooky, which gives the song one of the most accurate themings of any songs in the franchise. The fast rise and fall of the flutes in particular is really nice, and the instrumentation is perfect for the haunted house vibe. What I find especially interesting is how fast-paced it is. I think it would be easier to have a spooky song be slow and atmospheric, but this song knows it's spooky and just owns it as it should. This song is just fun. It captures the feeling of winter break so perfectly, exciting, full of energy, knows the holidays are in full swing. It's a joy to the world of Banjo Kazooie. My favorite part is actually right at the end of the song, when it has the fast strings, the bass is being played by what sounds to be a really low flute of some kind. Almost all the other instruments are gone besides the backbeat flutes and the sleigh bells. I don't know what it is about that part in particular, but it scratches my brain just right. A fantastic song, and one I think a lot of people have as their favorite, and for a good reason. This song sounds like it's going to be low energy at the very start, then it builds up more instruments, then it goes crazy once the percussion starts playing at full throttle. It's a little hard to articulate why I like this song over some of the other offerings from the first game, but it just has some magic about it that makes it so enjoyable. I really think it's just that I vibe with the melody here harder than I do with some of the other songs. The frogs also add a lot to both atmosphere as well as mirroring parts of the song for more interesting sounds. This entry might be the most debatable as to whether it counts as a world for the purposes of this list. But you can warp here with the silos that also link to the ILO hags, which to me means that this is just part of the hub world in Tooie that has a unique song. This is one of my favorites. It contrasts so much with the rest of the hub world in Tooie, which is a breath of fresh air sometimes. And every time you open the game, you enter through Jinjo Village, which just endeared me to the song even more, since otherwise it might go forgotten. The woodwinds are beautiful, and it's just a fantastic song. Rip Grey Jinjo family though, taken too soon. This song has the opposite vibe of Freezy Peak, being a winter song that focuses much more on the chilling feeling rather than the holiday feeling. Generally, I prefer the holiday feeling, but the Click Clock Wood melody is just that good. The pizzicato strings combined with the marimba is just really nice, and the muted guitar on bass brings the whole thing together. And when the tubular bells come in, oh, it's just so good. I think this song in particular is an outlier in terms of my preferred songs, but there's just something about it that I really enjoy. Now this is a hub world song. The laugh at the beginning creates an excellent intro to one of the most iconic songs in the whole franchise that gets referenced in tons of the other songs. The way it transforms next to different worlds was so unbelievably cool as a child, and they all sound great. Its low-key and plotting energy is just perfect for the feeling of going through a witch's lair. All of what I could say and more is actually excellently explained in this video by Alex Yard. I highly recommend watching it, as it gave me lots of insights about this song. Just barely missing the top 10 for me is Treasure Trove Cove. I think this might be a very unpopular opinion, as I often hear this song as being people's absolute favorite, but it actually isn't even my favorite beach theme in the franchise. That doesn't mean it's not good by any means, however. It is an excellent song with tons to love about it. In particular, the part that plays at 1 minute and 5 seconds in might just be my favorite part in any Banjo Kazooie song ever. But the the song doesn't maintain that high, and as such, it can't be my favorite. The beach vibes are perfect, and I fully understand why it might be some people's favorite, it just isn't mine. We enter the top 10 with the only song from Nuts and Bolts to even place in my top 20. I know that in previous Nuts and Bolts entries, I said that relying on pre-existing songs caused them to lose their identity somewhat. What's nice about this song, though, is that its identity is being other songs. Hearing Banjo Kazooie and Tooie songs with a beautiful orchestra in a medley is just fantastic. The songs featured here are Click Clock Wood, Freezy Peak, Mad Monster Mansion, Gobi's Valley, Cloud Cuckoo Land, Mayahem Temple, and then a short Rusty Bucket Bay bit before looping back to Click Clock Wood. It's a nostalgic piece of music that makes me happy, so I thought it was worth putting in the number 10 spot. The one that started it all. Spiral Mountain is peppy, fun, and just a feel-good song. The brass counter melody in this song in particular is one of my favorites. It's a classic song that anyone who's played these games has heard because it gets remixed and remade several times throughout the series, because it's just that good. Grunty Industries might be one of the most controversial worlds in the entire series, many players believing it to be too difficult compared to the other levels, especially for its placement as only the 6th world. I myself would argue that Hailfire Peaks is more difficult, but as a child I definitely felt that this was the hardest world. On to the music, however, it is super fantastic. I think that it has a much more unique feel compared to every other song in the series. The closest I could compare it to would be Clanker's Cavern, but even then, the song is just its own beast. The brass is goofy whilst still sounding intimidating. The woodwinds all sound fantastic when they come in to counter the brass, and the xylophone part is exquisite. Though I'm not ranking it here, Weldar's theme is one of my favorite songs overall, and I highly recommend listening to it too, as it is just a higher energy version of Grunty Industries, which is great. I need to get something off my chest. Whenever someone does the call and response bit with the 5 beats that you're meant to respond with 2 more beats, you know, the one that goes do 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 do. Whenever I hear that, I always want to respond with the Glitter Gulch Mine melody. It is an infectious earworm like no other, and I love it for that. I find myself humming or whistling this song more than any other banjo song, probably. The spring noises and donkey cries are all really goofy, and the accordion verse is very pretty. It really fits the theme of a mine while still maintaining a bright atmosphere. An all-time favorite of mine. It's been a while, Grunty's Revenge. Even longer than the gap between Nuts and Bolts songs. Grunty's Revenge soundtrack is an enigma to me, because while it has some of my least favorite songs in the franchise, it also holds 2 of my absolute favorites. Spiller's Harbor is like a darker version of Jolly Roger's Lagoon, and it's great. The verse at the end with the woodwinds holding the chords is my favorite part, and as a whole, Spiller's Harbor utilizes the GBA sound system to its fullest with this great track. Speaking of Jolly Roger's Lagoon, it is also up here as one of the best banjo songs ever. Sharing its world with Atlantis, you don't hear this song as much as the other world themes. This works to its advantage, however, as it makes it more of a treat when you do get to listen to it. This song actually used to be my absolute favorite as a child. I don't know what it was about the song, but it just clicked with me. I think the best part has to be the call and response between the clarinet and the flute. Just a gorgeous track that I never get tired of. Undoubtedly, the best Click Clock Wood version. It is so fun and exciting. This is another one that I can't help but whistle at random times throughout the day. The melody is just perfect, as are the instrument choices. All of the extra little parts in the song create so much variety compared to the other Click Clock Wood tracks that it feels like this one was designed to be the best by default. I also highly recommend watching this video by 8-Bit Music Theory, where he goes in depth about the way Click Clock Wood was composed along with several other tracks from the games, as it made me appreciate them a lot more. This one might be my most out there opinion on the whole list. I really rated the beach theme from Grunty's Revenge higher than Treasure Trove Cove, and I even put it in my top 3 songs? I don't know what to say. I just really love this song. I can't even explain why. It just works for me like no other beach song does. I honestly think it might be the GBA sound system. The simplicity of it makes it work better, and I don't know why. I highly recommend listening to this song and even seeking out remixes of it, as it is a fantastic piece of music. Now talk about an iconic song. Rusty Bucket Bay has, in my opinion, the best song from the original Banjo Kazooie. The use of mallets in this one in particular might be my favorite in the entire soundtrack. The darker tone with the ship noises fits this difficult level very well. It always feels like there is something interesting happening musically, because there always is. It is a fan favorite track for a reason, and I love it. Through process of elimination, I'm sure many of you figured out the #1 spot during the last entry, though it may have surprised you. Really? Witchyworld is his favorite? Yes, it is, and I will explain why. I think that the Witchyworld song fits the theme of the world the best out of any song in the series. The dark carnival aesthetic is super unique, and the song fits it to a T. It's a waltz, which not only fits the theme really well, but also makes it stand out amongst the other songs in the franchise. The instruments are all perfect as usual, with special emphasis going to the sad pan flute. I love the way so many of the instruments do a slow trill to emphasize the run-down and sad nature of the amusement park. The flute backing beats are wonderfully dissonant at times, making for a very interesting sound that meshes with the melody fantastically. But most of all, it's just the song that I like the most. There are other things I like about it too. The way it mirrors the overworld the best with its changing themes for each area. The fantastic version that plays in the Mr. Patch boss fight. But really, it's just my favorite, and I don't think that it's going to change anytime soon. I even liked it so much that I made a remix of every single different theme in the world in a single video. Though the video's pretty old and doesn't hold up to my standards today, that effort is proof that this is my favorite song in the franchise, and I hope you can see why too. This was my first time making a video like this, and it really took a lot out of me. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and maybe even subscribe. Most of what I do is make original music, so I hope you stick around to listen to it. I might make more videos like this in the future, but it won't be my main output. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and have a good rest of your day.